A hearty good afternoon and welcome to the session on psychological distress during Ivf treatment. We are glad to have Dr. Vijayageetha among us today to help us understand the topic. Anxiety and depression are significantly increased in women with treatment failure several weeks after the first Ivf treatment and also 6 months after the treatment. Many couples stop treatment prematurely because of the psychological stress, thus reducing the chances of success. However, it is unclear whether the psychological stress also influences the chance of consumption. Doctor will discuss this topic briefly and will take us through that and more in the session today. Doctor, you have the stage.
Thank you. Thank you for your introduction. A very good afternoon, everyone. A big hi from Vijayageetha on behalf of Apollo Fertility and our staff members. Today, with another topic on psychological distress during IVF treatment. So, we all know about, on our average, what an IVF treatment is all about. So, apart from what a treatment line is catered by the IVF specialist, there's always a huge amount of environmental, surrounding, social, um, interpersonal challenges. So, why I use the word challenges is because sometimes there's no answer. So, there are a lot of situations, not only the process which the couple would undergo through the treatment, but also the outcome of the treatment. And in certain cases where the couple has had been identified with a fertility issue which has led to an infertility, then their agony is unexplainable. What would be the benefits of distress management? What would be a guideline? Is there any help? So this session is all about the role of a psychologist and something that is between the psychologist and the couple, though the goal is to see that the treatment reaches its complete line, and it also aids with a better interaction with the IVF specialist, and also that the better understanding from the couple, more so ever better understanding by the women who's undergoing them. So this session is all about, and I also discussed about the therapies that's been involved and how it has facilitated. As of now, if I have seen from my own documented journal, quite many people who have been benefited out of that, irrespective of the outcome. If you see whether it's going to be the outcome based only on pregnancies or deliveries, but if you see whether the treatment line is complete or not, well, then there is a 100% yes towards that. So let's have a journey on what about is this stress that is going to be a big question at the current hour. First, let's understand what a distress is all about. Psychologically, which is a mental function, moreover, it's actually a state which is arising out of one's own emotions, where the person's emotion is subjected to a suffering. And associated with that, there are little stressors, and there is a demand to be subjected in a particular way, which is causing discomfort. Let's say, first, we will take it as an emotional discomfort, for which there is a great what do you say an expectation from not only from within but also through the around the people, to say what is the outcome of this. So the moment when the emotional suffering comes, we usually quote emotional suffering not only to the physiological world that we go through, your work stress or your demands of the family life, but emotional suffering mostly, if you see, is also has a religious context where, like, if you can ask, this is Navratri time, right? And if you ask most of the female in India, they have a very different way of living for this 9 days. So if you look into the routine, they get themselves subjected to a particular way of living, and it does cause a lot of emotional suffering, but they're happy and contented because they are asking for a boon or a blessing. and usually through the advices of the the senior members in the family, they say that it just get granted. It's like seeking for a blessing. So usually emotional suffering usually has a lot of spiritual context, irrespective of what culture or a religion background. There is a saying that if your process is difficult, then there's definitely a light seen at the end of the tunnel. But to meet those demands and to expect the outcome, so there is an expectation there. So this is what a distress is all about. But we sometimes fail to realize, even in common world scenarios, like let's say your expectation from your job, an expectation from your husband or a partner, your expectation from your friends, an expectation from your colleague, an expectation about you, all about you, from within you, are most common things which all your emotions play around. And let's say at the end of the day, I have met this much, that much, this much did not do well, hooka crook, I did something. So these are all the way that we conclude, I'm done at the end of the day. But where does the emotional suffering gets overburdened, becomes very difficult to cope, are venues when there is no answer. However, there are many situations which carries no answer, but the demand persists. When the moment we see about emotional suffering, and there is a stress there that you have to be undergoing, and the demand is like irreplaceable. You can neither get out of it nor take a break out of it. It's like every single time, and then there's no answer to that. To a certain extent, the psychological or the mental faculty would start saying, for what sake am I undergoing this? Well, is there an answer? Yes, your coping mechanism can be a part time solution. Your stress management can be a part time solution. But the seeker would understand that, yeah, the outcome is, if this is a treatment, I would expect a better outcome. So let's break down the outcome to be not only as the ultimatum, which is a pregnancy. There are step downs of those outcomes among infertile couples also. So let's look into parallelly how to break down what can be a immediate solution for this distressful situation. Above all, let's get into a brief on what makes the situation, this distress situation, to be worse, or it's my worst. Let's say, psychologically given up because I am not having any further ideas how to work with it. Your emotions are just run out, and the suffering is so humongous that your physical body is not able to cope with it. Since there's just no answer, this is kind of called a psychological shutdown. So, to avoid all this, it does says that this is a huge lack of a proper, efficient self-care. And there is a grave difficulty in not only the immediate surrounding people who surrounding with the people who's undergoing an infertility treatment, or in also identifying from within self, what is this distress and what is this frustration that is causing. What are the answers that needs to be sought? Am I moving ahead, not moving ahead? It is too non-conclusive. So the aim is here. There is something called stepped care, which is provided to all IVF couples who are planning for pregnancy. It can be a natural conception, as simple as monitoring. It can be an assisted conception. The initial step is given to an IUI, that is intrauterine insemination, or the most ideal part is IVF, which is in vitro fertilization, or ICSI. So the stepped care here are the psychological breakdowns, where one would arrive at an answer to say, hey, the path seems to be correct, the outcome is documentable, and it is positive enough for me to move forward. So your stepped care has proper physiological, and its correlate a good evidential to say that your IVF journey is worth taking. Why is it very important? There are a lot of cases where the distress or the emotional hurt, or the let's say all the surrounding has lacked the importance of the efficient care, and it has just become overpowering for a very women who's being subjected and not getting answered, but the demand remains to be the same. And this is where a negative stress response is being failed to be identified. What to be done once a negative stress response is identified? You first start looking into whether the response is negative or positive. Is it out of a psychological reaction or is it out of the physiological reaction? In most of the cases, the most common things that anybody would say is, oh, yeah, the hormones are fluctuated. So there can be a lot of emotional imbalances coming up. One needs to learn to cope with it. Obviously, the person is always ready. But the answer is where, how, and what to be done for that, for which there's no answer. Now, this is where the too much of stress and its constant demand leads to a negative response. Negative in the sense, a response that's not going to cooperate with the lady to go ahead with the treatment, which is a demand. It's as simple as that. So that becomes negative because a person is not able to move forward. This has seen, at least in quite a many cases, when a person who goes through all your examinations, your reports, your blood tests, your scans to say, what if you require and assisted methodology or a procedure to conceive. These are all your parameters, to be spoken very frankly. Unfortunately, there cannot be much that can be treated, but there is an option that you can get out of this. But how much is that awareness among the couple is there to get to set to decide, hey, this is the limitation of the physical body, this is the limitations of my hormonal mechanism that's in and around in this genre. So what would be the best outcome? To see results, one needs to be stress free. So you identify what are the types of stress that causes an overwhelming action among the people out of the demands, or what you're going to lose, or what you're going to receive, and what is going to be the perceived threat factors that one would like to take up. Let's say a treatment which you do not know what can be an outcome. Some warning signs that will be seeing among couple who usually seek for a conception is, usually they are very psychologically closed. I do not want my a person who's sitting next to me to understand or to know that I've come for an infertility treatment. I do not want the nursing staff who's standing along with the doctor to know about my inabilities. Okay, if a really a person has an infertility factor or diagnosed or identified to have certain causes that leads to infertility or infertile, there's a lot of psychological closing. Now, when there is too much of closing or closure, where a person is not willing to open up, then there's very little to be done to ease out the negative stress response. So among such people, what do we see indirectly? So there can be an update from my nursing team to say that the patient is weeping all by herself in a corner where nobody sees. There is a difficulty when we try to interact with the lady during scan sessions. When we ask the person in the morning at a billing counter, say, hi, good morning, did you have your breakfast? And the person just thinks, I'm still pondering about that. And the person comes all not tied up enough to presentable enough to get outside. And there's a lot of disorientation that you can be seen physically, that you just come and then the person just comes and gets things done and just goes. So by appearance, by behavior, one of the most important people who are surrounded in our setup, who is able to identify or pick up to say, excuse me, the counselor, the person is something that we are spotting out as indicators. And then we have to very gently, very gradually, because it is a very dicey, a hairline situation, where you can always tell the person we are there to help. And above all, the confidentiality that is maintained, and the helping hand that is being provided with love and care. So nothing is being crossed line. Is like, hey, who are you? Why are you trying to involve too much? I know everything about myself, I know to take care, is very strong indicator to say that the person is suffering from within. For all those who assume or really believe, it's good to believe that we're all strong ladies and women. refrain yourself and ponder within to see, are there episodes of crying all by yourself in any part of your life? Are there episodes of anger, just like that, bursting out all by yourself when there's nobody around? Are you areas where, like, there's nobody to look, oh, you're behaving something like this? So in your closed personal space, how happy are you? What are your emotions? Are there spells of crying episodes? Are there bouts of anger coming up? Or are there random thoughts that says, if this person had supported, I would have been much better. If that would have happened, I would have given a much better. I do not want to expose to say me, but from within, if you have identified those soft spots, then you need to pat yourself to say, yes, you are in that particular genre, this distress, because there's no answer for that. Associated with that, whenever those particular thoughts or emotions come up and overpower or overwhelm you, then you do not feel like eating, you do not feel like doing anything, and so you feel all tired and fatigued, like, I just don't want to do anything. Close yourself and avoid completely, avoiding family members, friends, and there's innate denser feelings that keeps you heavier, sulking down, hopelessness, helplessness. There's a lot of guilty associated, irrespective of whether what I should have done it, but there's a brim. You cannot have a 100 feet high building and just thing is this, I am the cause for it, I do not have the ability to go, and the other partner. So see, a relationship is always a 50-50. A marriage is a commitment to say, hey, even if I do not know, I'm going to commit at least for the 50%. But in a relationship, if you identify or 90 is to 10 or even 100 is to 0, it's time to think to see, to take any accidental activities that, even in the grayest area, will I have my partner supporting with that? Will I have who to support for this? So you can overcome the actions of guiltness. You can plan your helplessness. You can overcome your hopelessness, because I already knew the person would not be supporting. So this is me, this is my plan, and your activity is in your control. So, to all the seekers who are so resilient enough to come to take up, to have a solo journey, because according to the current ART law, even single mothers are encouraged to become family holders. What needs to be done from your side? Identify the areas, see if you are seeking up for a treatment. Sit and work up with your health psychologist to say, these are my plans and these are my limitations, these are my things. Can you help me in charting out what would be the duration, what is the expectation, and so forth. The outcome of the treatment with proper evidence would say that the ultimate outcome is that, but there is also a step down that will take you towards that outcome that needs to be identified to overcome guilt, to overcome helplessness, to overcome hopelessness. So it's a vast treatment, where the result is not arrived in one particular end. What are some of the causes that a person gets subjected to high levels of distress, because a person does not or is not able to seek or find up the relevant answers that is most importantly bound to be seen. Let's say a couple walks in, and then the couple would have undergone, let's say, an IUI procedure, as simple as that. So religiously, the lady comes because she is the one who has to be monitored, tracked down. There's bout of episodes of medications. There's an episode or window of scanning to monitor, and voila, then that is the procedure that happens. Well, if the result is a negative, then we need to look into for the reasons why it has happened. The first interpersonal question would come is, how far as a couple would accept that there is an issue with the physiological parameters, there is an issue with my hormonal parameters. Or are you conflict within, say, no, 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 my hormones is always correct, it's your biological parameters that's not abiding to do so, it is okay. But are there conflicts? That is what is the question here. So let's say humbly that yes, there is conflict and it is not happening. So the solution would be what to do next. Or is there any factors of an illness in a near or dear one, or if there is a past history among your family members to say that, yeah, down the lane I have heard my aunt has undergone an IVF. In those days, IVF not necessary to be a proper IVF, even it can be an IUI or monitored for timed intercourse, something like that. And or most common thing is to should check if there is a history of PCO, what needs to be done. And common causes to identify whether there is a distress among the couple is situations of separation. Is there an abuse in your relationship? How good is your partner, your family, your parents, near and dear ones, to please sit and chart it out. Why, madam, all this is coming up? uh, it's just a simple treatment. All that is required is I can come treat myself and go. But why so much is seen? According to a survey that was done in the year 2012, in an article, it also says that the psychological distress associated in IVF has affected its outcome. It is a cohort study which was done over a period of 18 months from various community backgrounds to check that at least the outcome to see that to a great extent people have not even finished the treatment, means they have left the treatment. People have completed the treatment but the treatment's outcome was not positive. When you looked into that particular genre as the treatment outcome not positive, obviously the expectation is a pregnancy, but there are step down things that comes as to be lines or steps that takes you towards a conception. So those things were not broken. Everybody understood, if I do IVF treatment I should become pregnant. Well, that is not an outcome. So, on an average, the conclusion of the cohort study itself says that the decision making was gravely influenced by a woman's age. So, let's say if a woman is not okay to go ahead, but it's a partner who says, please go ahead, there's this duration of family married life to be too much, and it is time that you get pregnant. Failing to answer the question, at what age was the lady married? That gets failed. Ethnicity. Based on ethnicity and the knowledge that one person comes up, sometimes a family can be pushed to take up a treatment from their surroundings, like your parents or your in-laws or your society and near and dear ones. The income of the family has sometimes was a grave reason for breaking out of a treatment or being forced into a treatment. Education, which plays a very major role, has been one of the reasons. You go through too many articles, too many Google searches, too many cases. Let's say you ask your very next patient who's been sitting next to you, hey, what did you do? Okay, so the lady says, come for a scan. What scan? I'm undergoing endometrium thickening. For me it is not at all growing. Who, it is not at all growing? Why it is not at all growing? I don't know, I took tablets, everything was fine in the beginning, and then it's not growing. Gone. Conclusion, there's fear that's gripped in a current couple. She has failed to say there can be an history as evidential as an endometriosis or adenomyosis or something that is affecting the endometrium thickness, which she wouldn't have told, or any other gynecological background they wouldn't have told, or as simple hormonal fluctuations which she wouldn't have told. This brief communication has caused a grip of fear in a couple who is planning to take up or who is halfway. Oh, okay, fine. So let me better stop it here. As if I don't want to undergo all this rather than spoiling my. So there's an incompleteness in the treatment. Then the duration of the infertility. Infertility itself says that the factors of infertility is being identified. Sometimes the fertility gets so compromised that it can lead to infertility. So, what is the duration of that? Is there a continuous IUI cycles being failed? Is there continuous planned intercourse is being failed. Speak with your doctor to identify the reasons so that there is a better decision. It's not happening, we'll change the hospital. It's not happening, we'll change the consultant. It's not happening, we'll change the place. It's not happening, I'll go abroad. But the solution is not that. It is the same that everybody does. Probably it is failed to see from within what is the actual cause that is being caused, is failed to identify. Assessment point, just like how the infertility specialist would assess your hormones, your most important factors, which your fallopian tube nature, if it is for a natural conception, the importance and the assessment of your ovarian tissue functions, your uterine cavity for an endometrium thickness, and everything and anything. Psychological assessment is also equally important. Why? It also says that your demands towards a treatment, are you able to meet it? Is there something that's bother you? Is there something that it is preventing you? Is there something that's coming in between the treatment? There was a unique example that was quoted by one of my colleague when the person who was on call over phone seeking that there was a severe abdominal discomfort, and when pondered, and the family member thought that okay, there's abdominal discomfort due to excessive gas, because she said bloating sensation. But by a relevant friend, she's like, this doesn't look like bloating sensation, because she said she drank soda, she drank milk, and the gastric sensation did not come down. But for a brief period of time, there was severe abdominal discomfort. So when the communication had come to my pocket, so when I asked the question, relevant questions, then identified that the lady was stimulated, and due to some family emergency, she had to go to another place for the participation of the event, failing to go to the hospital to continue or complete the treatment. The lady has undergone an ovulation which caused to rupture, and then there was huge abdominal discomfort and bloating and its associated things. So what does the story indicates is that rather than meeting the demand of the treatment line, she has gone halfway because she has not told that there will be something as a life incident that's going to come in between. So your decision making, your assessment, the things which takes the flow of the treatment is very important. Also, to identify the history. Let's say you have planned, and were there episodes of, yeah, last time when I got when we did try, I was very excited, I did see a 2 line in my UPT, but later after 2-3 months, and then there was my bleeding and something happens. After that, what? How was your thoughts? Who was your emotions? So please, we need to also access on all this led to the huge breakaway in the treatment. So around 220 couples who was taken or registered for an infertility treatment, they were not able to finish the treatment line. And the results were, these are the genres or the area identified in this research article to say as reasons that they have failed to continue, or these becomes an indication to predict a failure in the treatment, out of which psychological distress plays a huge role, because it brings in a lot of focusing points where efforts needs to put on the basis of using psychological interventions to which specifically aims in improvising the chances of a successful IVF treatment leading to conception. This is what helps a patient in achieving their goal. So we all know that amongst an IVF treatment, the financial plays a very important role. Your environmental adjustment plays an important role, because you need to leave home and come on regular basis to meet the doctor. There also can be understanding, if you are trying to understand yourself, if you do not know what a distress, what a psychology, what a mood swing is all about, there can be an understanding of the entire concept of the procedure itself, based on the educational background or how one understands oneself. So before heading into any further, let me check if there's any questions that I would answer. Any questions from the participants? Okay, in the meantime, let's get back to the presentation. We will look at the signs and the symptoms that this emotional distress would put out, which most commonly a partner would always comment, Doctor, today, my mistress was like this. And then the mother-in-law says, today my daughter-in-law did like this. And then tomorrow the friend would say, something is wrong with you. This is not your behavior or an emotion. Why is this such a kind of an emotional episode? So, what needs to be seen very keenly here is your personality change, a way that seems to be very different compared to you. Are you having bouts, like I said, anger? Are you having episodes of crying? Are you agitated? Is there any anxiety? Do you get moody? Are there incidences of withdrawing yourself or isolating yourself from others? Is there poor self care? I would come, however, I would like to come. What bothers you? Is that the attitude you're trying to say? And are you isolated from others? Poor self care, perhaps engaging into a very risky behavior. This is never understood because what behavior are you up to? It's a close one who's going to say that. But if they are not going to do it becomes sometimes very risky. What if, let's say, for example, a patient or a person is being stimulated? This is a lot of hormones. And doctor says, see, you need to take care, you need to be in rest. And the lady prefers to go out for a picnic. Then there is severe abdominal discomfort and then lands up with heavy, let's say, abdominal pain. That can be a risky behavior, potentially risky for the ovaries, which are bulky due to stimulation. So we do not know what the lady is also up to. So these are all the emotional signs to say that your behavior is being deviated beyond what is expected out of you during your treatment line. Are there episodes of what I said, your hopelessness, your feelings of helplessness, overwhelmed, feeling worthless, do not want to know, not want to knowing, and I do not want to hear either. So tendencies of shutting down psychologically is all signs and symptoms to say that you have hit a brim. This is distress. How would a psychologist the person says, no, I do not want label. I'm coming. This is your treatment line population. Then a pickup after the induction period. The which is a success news, is we got so many oocytes. Now, out of so many follicles that you have religiously secured and grown and within your body, we were able to retrieve so many oocytes, out of which so many was good. This would be a very first information that reduces your anxiety, elevates out of depression to ask, oh my God, is that true? So, what would be my next step towards success? Out of coping mechanisms, the way to cope up is to give relevant answers. Now, out of so many good oocytes, we have converted them into so many embryos. So, after the days of embryos that are developed, we'll say, okay, we've got 10 good embryos. So many failures of IUIs and nothing happening. I can good embryos where I can expect my pregnancies out of. Accepting what is happening is always a radical reaction, which would say, is there something else that I can question? Is there something that I need to ask the embryologist or my consultant, or am I good to go? This also creates a new sensation in your body to say, yes, so far so good. From a randomness of to nothing, now in reality, there's something. So this creates a lot of stress-free aloofness, new sensation. So you pay a lot more attention to in asking, okay, doctor, what to do next? What would, if I do properly, that it would lead to now the very next step. So what is my next step? Relevant questions. And also you always start identifying, if you have undergone, let's say, a huge hurdle and you've achieved out of it, Do not forget to self soothe yourself to say, hey, you have crossed it, you have made it. So there is always a problem solving for every action. Let's take the blunt scenario. Okay, I have seen we also say about statistic basis, right? So there's 1 in a lakh cases where sometimes none of the eggs turns out to be a good quality, which is not at all expected. So how would you explain, or how would the lady would undergo? So what are the points that you can put your hope into? So this is not a repetitive. We will be focusing into good mechanism. Is there any alternative medications? Do you need any treatment to enhance the quality? What next can be done? Sometimes doctor says just take a rest and come back, because it is very rare to see continuous stimulation giving to always bad quality of oocyte also. So the problem solving comes from the relevant person. So even in the rarest scenario, we do see here there is a relevant solution for every answer. So your distress is now stress free. The therapy here that we talk about, your psychological distress, is all about a stepped care principle. Stepped care principle is a method where psychologists would be always on a watchful waiting. So to always monitor the person. If there's nothing to talk, the person would keep quiet, would come, would take and go. So there are relevant behaviors that is expected out of the lady, and it is being satisfied by picking up, yes, the person had come, scan has been done, it's good to go, medicine taken, good to go, pickup happened, good to go. Now there is always a guided self-help program given. Now there is stress, scan is done, don't know what next. You will find out from the body language, or asking the next person, or asking the nursing staff who do not know what the answer is, like what next, what to expect out of it. So, out of all the timeline or the treatment line, you would say or guide, hey, the next step for this is nothing but it will be an egg pickup. Now we have to wait and see what is the quality of the egg that is coming out. So, you have always got into a face to face problem solving psychological treatment, where for this, now this is the answer, and I am waiting. So, there is a waiting period. If you are not able to let go of the waiting period, or if the waiting period is too overwhelming, do not know what to do, we usually tell the lady to involve in hobbies, or as of now, today's generation, all the ladies are working, to lose your time in working. So your psychotherapy along with your medication with other services here is in of a great deal, which combats the 4 steps of stepped care, which follows these principle to guide it. Sometimes in certain pictures, the stepped care will be stepped up. Oh, you need more time to make you understand, make you identify, make you go through. Sometimes your stepped care is stepped down. Hi, how are you? Is all good? Yeah, I'm feeling okay, fine. Doctor told me for the next scan. So this is a stepped down care where not much is there. However, the psychologist sees that by behavior, by medications, all those relevant things are being taken care. The approach is to, from the person, is not to wait until somebody will come. I am stressed, so somebody will come and look at me like, do you need a psychological help? Obviously nobody is going to come and ask you, though very rarely people will also come. But sometimes we also get a blunt answer, no, what makes you to ask? Everything is fine with me. Is also a blunt answer that we get. So not to wait. It's like a right or a duty to ask for, can I speak with someone who can understand me? Because sometimes not all the time is available by my doctor, who needs to cater the time to also to others. Different people require different level of care, and finding the right level is all about the stepped approach method. And care depends upon also monitoring the outcomes. So moving to the lower dimensions, procedure outcome, emotional outcome, physiological outcome, treatment outcome, is what is the effectiveness of this approach all about. So, according to stepped care model, this provides an approach to mental health support. That this is actually a person-centered and therapy, and actually supports people across whatever is the spectrum of needs that is required, catering very specifically among the IVF couples. couple, I have come across that this has benefited a lot. Though the ultimatum is a pregnancy, okay, the treatment is failure. No, no, no. Your first step towards a treatment is achieving good quality eggs. That's the first level success. Getting into good quality embryos, yeah, second level success. And then your endometrium thickness is ideally come third level of success. Then we do an implantation and give all the assisted support that's required. Then your beta hCG negative or positive, which is not in anybody's hands, will be taken care. If is there something that your embryos or your endometrium or some other microscopical factors are indicating, so we need to dig into, look into this a little bit more to ensure that people are streamlined to access the right service, the right need, the right information, the right treatment, the right things that is given in a right time that will give you a positive change, which is also in the right time. So, what is this step care management all about? It's a system which we have catered to deliver to monitor, also a more becomes like one way drill. It's only the counselor or psychologist will ask, "Hi, how are you? Hi, is everything okay? Fine. Are you finished with the meditation? Done." Then that's all. So if despite there is an involvement from the team, if the person chooses to have a closed behavior, then it's the most very important way to see the intensity is will be either step up or step down, but never we have completely shunned out of giving what is really important. Why is this very important? IVF is one of the treatments where you come, though the treatment is called IVF, the goal is there, but it is not achieved in one jump. There are many things that needs to be taken care in between. A stepped care model here becomes very important because it identifies and also depends upon the potential of the information, the biologicals, the hormonals, and the treatment itself to improve the efficacy of the the psychological de-stressment, which is very important, so that it ensures that whatever is the outcome, the patient is in a good status to accept it. What if the body is not able to produce? What if the body indicates something else? What if there was a genetic anomaly which was never identified and is being identified? So many factors. It's not like everyone who comes will go through so much blood tests is identified till a genetical factor. It's not done in that way either. So that to ensure good outcomes for patient is actually the goal. But the outcome is not the ultimate outcome, but there are step down outcomes. So for any further information, or if you're seeking to have an advice, or you want to know what is this IVF all about, or if you want to take ahead and look into your stress factors, how would you like to manage, you can always approach me at this contacted number being on the display. So at Apollo CM Fertility, we as a team are always here to cater your needs. Thank you.